All right, I think we can start now. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Faculty of Arts and Science, everything you need to know in first year. Next slide, please. Next slide whenever you can. Before we begin, I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge the history of the land on which Queen's University is located. As Canadians, we have a collective responsibility to recognize the injustices committed against Indigenous peoples who have lived on and cared for this land long before the arrival of European settlers. Queen's campus is situated on the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe and the Haudenosaunee peoples. The Kingston area, originally known as Cataraqui, has been home to Indigenous communities for thousands of years and remains a place of significance and ongoing relationship for many Indigenous peoples today. As a student, I am grateful for the opportunity to live, work, and study as an uninvited guest on this territory. It's important to understand that Queen's, like many institutions in Canada, was established through colonial systems that displaced Indigenous communities. As a settler and as a guest, I carry a responsibility to reflect on the history and to contribute to a more just and inclusive and respectful future. If this is new to you, or if you'd like to learn more, I encourage you to explore the resources offered by the Office of Indigenous Initiatives and the Four Directions Indigenous Student Center, both online and on campus here at Queen's. Thank you for taking a moment to reflect with me. Now, to introduce myself, my name is Wenny. I use she, her pronouns, and I am one of the peer ambassadors with SOAR this year. I am in my fifth and final year studying concurrent education.
And my name is Michaela, and I use she, her pronouns, and I am another one of the peer ambassadors for SOAR this year. I am also in concurrent education going into my second year. This webinar is being recorded and will be available on the Student Experience Office website and YouTube channel within the next few business days. If you have any questions or concerns during this webinar, use the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen and we will get to them at the end of the presentation. And with that, I'm going to pass it off to our presenter, Dorit.
Thank you so much, Michaela and Wendy, for starting us off, and welcome everyone. My name is Dorit Naaman. I use she and her pronouns, and I am the Associate Dean Academic in the Faculty of Arts and Science. And what I'm going to be doing today is give you a bit of a big picture about coming to university, the nitty-gritty details of how to register for courses and other questions, hearing from students. All of that will be happening in the next few days, and you have the full schedule on the SOAR website, and I think it will be shared with you. My home unit is the Department of Film and Media, and in that department, I have taught for many years the first year courses. And so I have a lot of experience with first year students. And I'm also a mother to a student who just finished first year, not at Queen's. But just a year ago, I sat in one of those webinars and heard about what to expect. So I think that I'm going to make a pretty good guess that most of you, whether you're students or parents or both, are spending your summer with a mixture of excitement and some anxiety. And I think that mixture is very healthy and very, very normal. So, alma mater is Latin for foster mother. And in the next few years, the university will become a kind of an extended family or a place that shaped you for life. So I encourage you to spend some time thinking about the ways that you want to be shaped and what that entails and what role you have to play in that. And I'll make some suggestions. So I'm going to spend the next little while talking about some of the differences between high school and university and how you can excel at university. So I just want you to know that when you think about high school, your teachers were imparting knowledge onto you and you were absorbing that, processing that, and practicing that. A university has a different kind of set of goals. The first goal of the university is to preserve the knowledge that we have, and that is done by libraries and archives, sometimes by art galleries, by labs, places where we store data and we store our intellectual heritage. The second goal is to teach, and the third one is to renew knowledge through research and creative practice. And as students at university, progressively over the years, you will be having opportunities in the classroom and outside of the classroom to take on your own research, to renew knowledge, to contribute to the renewal of knowledge of your professors, and to think independently of what has been thought about before. And in order for that to happen, you need to have a lot of agency in that. So your professors are both teachers and researchers, and they are usually in first year in particular, you will meet them in fairly large lecture halls. And you can still make an effort to get to know them in person, and professors really happy to talk to students. And if you go and introduce yourself, they will usually spend some time with you, learning about what you care, why you're there, and then you have established a connection. I think that sometimes the titles like doctor or professor are intimidating, but don't let that intimidate you. We all really care about your intellectual growth. We want to teach you. We want to see you excel, and we are excited to see your excitement. So reaching out to your professor will be welcomed. And you can also do it through your teaching assistants, which will be usually graduate students that are starting to do their own research, their own original research, and but are still also students, so they can be a little bit of a bridge between you and your professors. When you approach your professor, be aware that often they have other students that sometimes need to sort out some problems or issues. So be courteous, be mindful of their time, and yet, yeah, make yourself known. Class size will be a really big difference from high school. So you will be in much larger classes, often in large lecture halls. And it can be overwhelming, but there are a few things you can do to make it less so. So the first thing is to connect with classmates. Sit near the front of the classroom, make eye contact with the professor, and if you can, turn off your cell phone. Attending class is really important, and in a large lecture hall, it is so easy to say, no one will notice, I can skip this class, I can skip that class. But if you're there, if you ask questions, the odds are that others have the exact same question. There are hardly ever any stupid questions. Usually when you have a question, it means that something either wasn't clear to you, or that you're extending what the professor has presented and trying to go beyond, and that is always welcome. It's also important skill to learn to ask questions and to ask good questions. And in order to develop it, you need to do it. And most of the original thinking that we do starts with questions. Why is something the way it is? If we compare this and that, how can we understand why things are different? That is the beginning of a thinking process that takes us away from opinions and into arguments, and then figuring out how are we going to answer that questions? What methods, what tools do I need to have in order to answer those questions? You will be in a really large intellectual pond, and you'll be surrounded by smart people, and you will be learning from each other. So if in high school, all of you sitting here today had to be excellent students in order to be accepted to Queen's, probably all of you are in the top 20% in your high school. Now that entire 20% will be the incoming class at Queen's. And that will have an effect on your grades, on the learning environment, and most of it will be really exciting because you will be surrounded by curious students, and engaging with them, you will learn as much, if not more, than from your professors. Studies show in pedagogy show that the most retention of new concepts happen when we teach them to other people. So some of your class activities will involve teaching other students. And when you think, why am I doing that? That is why, because when you're teaching, you're also absorbing yourself, you're crystallizing the ideas, you realize what are the next steps or what are the next questions. In order to be an active learner, you need to engage with the material. And you can do that with your classmates. So hearing them talk or ask questions is not just a waste of time, but it is an opportunity for you to see how the professor engages with their questions, or even considering where are their questions coming from? What are they seeing that or thinking about that I haven't necessarily thought about? Your grades may drop at least in the first term, sometimes in the first year. So many of you, and this happened to me, I was a straight A student in high school, and in my first semester at university, all of a sudden I had a C, and I was completely shocked and unprepared for that. And I had to learn how to learn. I had to learn how to learn differently. So when and if your grades drop, don't panic. This is very common. And there are lots of resources. We'll talk about some of the resources on campus that can be helpful for you as you're studying. But what you need to understand is that the university will challenge you every year a little bit more, and that the professors will provide you with what we think is constructive criticism. Sometimes it's not easy to take it, but it is not personal. It is meant to help you grow and understand where you need to spend more time, think about, read more, write more, or practice your skills. University learning is generally self-directed. So if in high school, the system is kind of hand-holding you, giving you rubrics, telling you when you need to be, where you need to be, exactly what you need to do, breaking everything into very small steps. University education relies on you to propel yourself to learn. In a large lecture hall, no one will notice if you haven't showed up. Sometimes you will be asked if you haven't submitted your homework and assignments, but often you will not. It will just be all up to you. And in order not to fall behind, you will need to be really on top of the syllabus. We have a learning management system called OnCue, and at the beginning of the week, you should always go in and look exactly what is expected for the week. And usually looking a couple of weeks ahead so that you know when there is a big assignment coming in one course, to make sure to make more time, and you can pace your assignments in a way that you can manage. You will have to stay on top of your readings and your homework. And again, no one will be there to tell you when you don't do that. So it is up to you. You can set up accountability system with your resident peers, but you will need to pay attention in order not to fall behind. You also need to realize that even though it may seem like you have fewer hours in the classroom than in high school, being a student is a full-time job. There is a lot of work that happens outside of your classroom. In fact, in some courses, you may be spending 3 hours in the classroom twice a week, but you will be expected to do another 8 or 9 hours of work every week, and a lot of it will be independent study. So pacing yourself, focusing, and planning will be crucial for you to meet your goals and to do well. Again, if you feel that you're falling behind, you will have teaching assistants. You can approach your professors. Most of the professors have office hours. You can always email them. And there are many resources like SAS, which stands for Academic Success Services. And ASUS, your student government, has peer tutoring. AMS has peer tutoring. There is QSAS, which is the place where if you have any accommodations, they'll process that and communicate with your professors. There are lots of places. And very importantly, in the Faculty of Arts and Science, we have academic advisors that can meet with you and help you plan your journey. You may come in thinking, I really want a degree in psychology. And then you take statistics and you think that's really not for me. And statistics is core in psychology. You may need to pivot your plans. And we have academic advisors that can help you do that. You don't have to wait until you feel like you're in trouble or behind or failing in order to seek support. Learning together is an incredible way to know where you stand and to make progress, and going and using these resources is a great way to guarantee that you're not falling behind, that you have somebody helping you check in on your progress or plan how to achieve all the goals that you have, meet all the assignment deadlines, plan for exams, and also sometimes eat and exercise. So in high school, a good student often knows all the answers and get everything right, but that is hardly ever possible at university. You will take on more challenging material, and again, every year the level of the challenge will get higher, and it will be not possible most of the time to have all the answers. We generally think of A range grades as grades for students who have done above and beyond, performed above and beyond expectations. So if you do everything that is on the assignment sheet, you meet everything on the rubric, you may still be receiving a B+. And that is a very, very good grade in university. So some adjustment about expectations will have to happen, and you will have to be patient with yourself as you adjust to this new system. You also may have to accept, and if you're a perfectionist, that might be hard, that achieving 100% success is almost always impossible. So think about other ways to value your achievements, and think about what you're learning, not just about the grades you are receiving. One of the goals of university is really to foster in you independent thinking skills. We would like you to look at the world in new ways. We have lots of very cardinal problems in the world right now, and you will be some of the people that will help solve them. And in order to do that, you need to think differently than previous generations. You will have to make surprising connections. You will have to challenge your own assumptions, to try to understand new perspective, to think critically and not just memorize. So and that work, that intellectual work of thinking and questioning and letting go of assumptions and challenging yourself and your positionality and why you've been thinking what you have been thinking and what needs to change, those are thrilling and exhausting and very demanding tasks. So part of your job will be to think for yourself rather than to try to please your professor. And I can tell you that professors love, love, love when you challenge them and you have a good argument for that. These are the best teaching moments when a student can show, I have thought about it, I have read it, here is why I'm arguing what I'm arguing. And all of us sometimes go, wow, you are right. I need to modify my argument. Some skills that you will need in order to succeed in university. There are many skills, but you will certainly need to be a good writer. Grammar, style, clarity, and reasoning will be really, really important. And forming your own arguments happens through writing. And AI can do a lot of work summarizing things for us, but it can't actually make arguments for us. That is the task for you. We do expect academic integrity. The whole intellectual enterprise is built on a premise where my contributions to knowledge are based on contributions that have been done before me. I come into conversations and I may extend those conversations, add to them, refute them, take them to new realms. But we are entering into intellectual conversations every time we read a textbook, watch a YouTube video, or even on TikTok. Academic integrity means that you mark very clearly in your writing and in your speech what are the thoughts of others and what are your original thoughts. Most of the work early on will be understanding what are the thoughts of others and performing analysis and understanding arguments of intellectuals. But eventually, you will start making your own intellectual contributions, and wouldn't be just horrible if those are then taken by somebody else without proper citations. Academic integrity is a core value in the way that we do our research and share our knowledge. Other skills that will help you succeed are asking for help, and asking for help early. If you have not gone to class for 2 weeks, it's time to write to your professor and say, I'm in trouble, or go to the wellness center, or go to SAS. If you wait any longer, you will only fall further behind. You will be more anxious about your success, and getting back on track will be harder. So asking for help early is really important. And I would also suggest that sharing with your family, with your parents, if you're experience challenges, is really important. Your parents are there to support you, and they understand that your journey is not going to be linear. It will have some challenges. There will be dips. There will be times where you will be sad or depressed or very, very anxious. And them knowing and supporting you will give you so much more than holding it back and thinking, I will just get through the term, I'll get my grades. They don't need to know about it. And you come home so exhausted for Christmas break. You spend 2 weeks sleeping, eating, seeing your friends, and you come back, but you're not in any better shape to tackle a new term. So having the support of friends and family is really important, and relying on the support that we offer at the university. You will have to learn how to manage time and your priorities, and those priorities should also include taking care of yourself. You will be the intellectual work that we're asking you to do is very, very hard to do if you're not sleeping and not eating and not exercising and not socializing at all, because you're so stressed about those assignments. So finding a balance and planning for self-care, social, physical, food, sleep, all of that is really important for your academic success. You also need to think about how to have fun. University doesn't last forever. You'll be here for a few years. You will probably make some of the friends that you will continue to be friends for life. You may find people that you will be working with or starting all kinds of ventures and adventures with. So make the best out of it in a way that will allow you to grow not only professionally and in your education, but as a person. That means be creative, take risks, learn from your own mistakes. Don't think about mistakes as failures. Think about them as opportunities to test your resilience and to recover and to move on. Be collegial, be positive. If you help your classmates, they will help you. And as a community, you will learn and grow together. And then I think one of the most important things is that you want to consider who is the person you want to be. And you may not know that, but think about it. I urge you to think about you as a scholar, as a citizen, and as a human being. There are all kinds of opportunities at Queen's to develop professional, leadership, and personal skills. Getting yourself involved in teams and clubs will help you both socialize outside of classroom and have experiences that will allow you to grow in all kinds of ways that you may not even imagine now. You can get many student jobs that will help you achieve future goals. Many labs will have student positions for the summer. Sometimes the university has administrative positions for students. You will have to think about the healthy balance between academic achievement and your wellness and personal life. And also, this is an opportunity to try something that you haven't done ever. Maybe you wanted to do it, maybe you haven't thought about it. Some of you may have spent the last 12 years with the same kids. Maybe some of you even with kids from kindergarten. Here, you will be the person you are today as an 18-year-old coming into university. Who you are today is your starting point. And give yourself permission to be that someone and to figure out what else you want to do. There are so many exciting opportunities, and these can be such exciting years, but you will have to take the agency to look for where you want to belong. Okay. I'd like to recommend Academics 101, which is available now on OnQ. And Academics 101 was developed by Academic Success Services and the Faculty of Arts and Science. And it's a series of online modules that will help you prepare for what does it mean how to prepare for a lab, what to expect from academic writing, what is academic integrity. You can choose the modules that interest you or that you think you will need and take them now. Some courses will assign those either for credit or not for credit. So if you do them this summer, you'll be ahead of the game. And we find out students report that when they take them, they feel much more grounded and prepared for the academic environment at Queen's. So what's next? There are degree-specific registration info sessions, and you can see them on the slide. So depending on your program, you have different opportunities to hear exactly how to register, what you need to take in first year, and there will be opportunities to get answers to all your specific discipline-specific questions. There are also academic advisors that can answer specific questions. And there will be registration advising drop-ins. So as registration is starting, you can get also advice if you need any advice. So I think we are going to go to questions.
Okay, I'm gonna jump in here. We've had some good questions coming up in the Q&A. Lots of people wondering about course registration and course load. So just as you've seen in that last couple slides, the registration info sessions are going to be your friend for that. So that's going to be a great place to get lots of good information on how to structure your timetable. Some students were asking about IB courses and whether those would give them a bit of a boost academically, maybe in making that transition. Is that something you want to talk about a bit?
Yeah, so certainly some of the science courses, so in order to get into science, you need some science courses from high school, but not necessarily all of them. So you may be taking chemistry in first year, and you haven't taken chemistry in high school because you've taken biology. So the first, certainly for those who have taken IB or AP, you will be ahead in those courses. They will review what you have done in high school, but then we'll go into greater depths. So, but if you have done, let's say, all the chemistry in high school at IB and AP, you can talk to an academic advisor and consider maybe not taking the first chemistry course, but taking only the second one. So different programs will require different sets of courses. So I'm not going to give a global answer, but certainly it will be helpful, and it will ease your transition to university, having taken IB or AP courses.
And that's a good point too, that there's not really a blanket answer. And if you do have any questions about that, that could be a good one to maybe bring to the drop-in advising sessions that we're going to have on Friday. If you feel like there's something that's really particular to your situation, we can answer that from an academic advising perspective. There was a question about thinking ahead to sort of final exams and good preparation for that. Any recommendations to how students can approach that, either broadly and just thinking about exams in general and maybe that the stress that comes with it, or specific courses and how to approach that?
So I think it will vary a lot. So some courses will have a midterm exam that will covers weeks 1 to 6, and then a final that will cover weeks 7 to 12. So as long as you stay on top, you only have a few weeks to review, and it feels more manageable. Other courses may have a midterm or different assignments and a final exam that covers all 12 weeks. The best advice is to stay on top of your studies week after week after week, to take really good notes when you go to lectures, and then to review your notes before the exam. Cramming, we know, doesn't really work. It sometimes works if you need to really memorize this formula, or who was the author or whatever. But that's usually what we don't test. So at universities, we tend to test more whether you can take data and ideas and arguments and do something with them. Can you take a formula and then answer a question that will use that but will take you somewhere else? So we look a lot at application. We look at extension of knowledge. And in order to be able to do that, you need to be really comfortable with the knowledge that has been shared throughout the term. And that doesn't happen by learning for 2 or 3 days before, studying 2 or 3 days before the exam. It's a slow and it's a process that builds up from one week to another. You may hear a lot the term scaffolding. We tend to scaffold our courses. So in week 1 and 2, we will do some very basic foundations. Weeks 3 and 4, we may add to that another layer or another complication, or expect to do something at a deeper level. So that is why I highly recommend to attend all classes, to not miss tutorials and labs as much as possible. I mean, sometimes, you may be sick one day, or you have, broken up with a partner and you're really sad, and that's okay. But as a practice, you need to be there, because then everything you're learning will sort of settle, and you'll have chance to ask questions if you don't understand what's going on. So I would say being consistent is my biggest tip for success in the exams.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a good one. It may seem really basic just to say keep going to class, but really that it is it's easier in September sometimes when the weather's still nice and warm than when it's cold and dark, but keeping on going to class is so important. There was another good question about balancing course load in life. Like if the course load feels really heavy, I think they said, will I still have time for homework, exercise, networking, eating, and clubs? I was glad that you put eating in there, because yes, this is part of being human and being balanced. Do you want to talk a bit about finding that balance?
Yeah, absolutely. I think so. This lends itself to a bigger question about how many courses should we take. So we consider the normal load 5 courses of 3 units. Okay, so 15 units a term is considered to be a normal load. But I don't like that term normal, because you may be taking a 3-unit course that is super heavy. And even if the hours are not even 10 hours a week, but the intensity is really, really intense. And you really need that course. You need that course for your major. Maybe that is a term where you take 4 courses or 3 courses instead of 5. There are some circumstances where you need to stay to have a full load. So this is for international students that often the visa requires that, but the full load means 30 units over 3 terms. So you can still have summer courses. We have a bunch of spring and summer courses that are offered online and on campus. You can still spread out a little bit if you need to. In my ideal world, all first-year students will take 4 and 4, because I think that there's so much newness. Most of you will be living out of home for the first time, managing your own time, maybe socializing more than you need to and used to, because it's just available and it's exciting, and it is a really important part of your development as people. So balancing the academic demands, it's a little bit of a dance. And again, there is no global I don't have a global advice, but I will say be really mindful. So the first 2 weeks you can drop and add courses if you feel like you're in the wrong class. You started and you're like, oh my gosh, you know what, I thought it will be something else. I've taken this astronomy course, I thought it will be this, and it's not that. It's I don't have the physics background, or I can't do this. You can change and take another course. But even later in the term, in fact, all the way to the last day of classes, you can drop a course. You paid for it, but you drop it and it doesn't actually show as a failed course on your transcript. So I think that being very aware of your capacity and assessing where you're at is the best advice I can give you, so that you are not getting to a point in November where you're so stressed because you have now 5 courses, a lot of assignments, exams, and you're feeling behind, that your performance, then we know, if we're very, very anxious, some anxiety before exams and assessment is normal. But if the anxiety is backfiring and you can't take yourself to class, then it's not. And then my recommendation is, don't make any rash decisions, but go to wellness center, make an appointment, and make an appointment with academic advising at FAS. Wellness will help you with kind of counseling, And academic advising will help you assess whether you're in the right courses, whether there are other things you can do. So yeah, that would be my my advice. I think it's very normal for first year to be much harder than years 2, 3, and 4. So also just be easy on yourself. And parents, be easy on your kids.
And the other, to add to that, that's such a big reason why we are here, and we do have a peer advising team in the faculty office called PASS, Peer Advising Support Service, which is specifically for first year students. So if you do that sort of cookie cutter full time, 5 courses per term, but you reach a point where you feel like that's not working out for you and you want to talk about some options, that's why we're here all year round. Come see us anytime if you want to talk things through. Okay, another sort of big picture question that came up was about making that jump from high school to university, feeling like there's just sort of anxiety about there being or the perception of there being less help, less support at the university level, making it feel like too big of a jump or a transition, just feeling anxious about that. Any recommendations for good places that students should get comfy visiting as a helpful resource?
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, you're not alone, right? You're coming in with a cohort of a lot of a few thousands, and it's true, it's so much bigger than high school that will be different and challenging. But you will also be in a residence floor, and you will have a don, and your don is the first person. They're a student, they're an upper year student. They've gone through just what you are going through. They've done it, and they know a lot of resources for you. So if you're, whether it's social or health, mental health, or physical health, food, you're not managing with the cafeteria as well, anything, or your studies, that is a person that you will get to know really well. And I highly recommend that you approach them. And if they don't know the answer, they know where to look for answers. Student Academic Success Services is an incredible resource. There are all kinds of groups that you can join. ASUS, the Arts and Science Student Government, has a lot of events, a lot of opportunities to come together, peer tutoring, just come and kind of share your experiences. So that's a place where, again, you'll be with upper year students who can relate and also know about other resources. And I can't thank the TAs enough. Your teaching assistants, most of you will be in a large lecture hall for most of your classes, and then in small tutorial groups or lab groups. And those will be like maybe 25 students or 20 students with a teaching assistant. Get to know them. They will be able to tell you, if you show up and you're super active for the first 3 weeks and then you become really quiet, they might come to you themselves and say, hey, is everything okay? Are you okay? You used to be so talkative in class, and now you're very quiet. Or I haven't seen you for 2 weeks and now you came in. Is everything okay? But you can also approach them and say, I'm struggling in this class, or I'm struggling in another class, but I really need to just talk about this whole university adventure. I don't totally get it. And they will most likely be there for you and be happy to also approach their professor to say, what kind of support do we have? There is a lot of support at Queen's. I don't think we have less support than in high school, but because we're so much bigger, it might be a little more work to find it. So you start with the people that are closest to you. And the 2 emails that are on the slide right now, put them into your phone, right? This is a place to start too.
Okay, I'm trying to find some other good sort of overarching questions. Yeah, again, I'm seeing a lot in the chat. We probably won't get to answer everything, but the majority of what I'm seeing just as I scroll through are ones that we're going to be able to cover in whichever registration information session pertains to the degree that you've been admitted to. So even if you don't get your question answered tonight, don't worry. This isn't the only chance to get that answered. Let's see. Do we enroll for all of our courses in both terms, or is there another enrollment period for winter term? I'll just answer that super quickly. The answer is yes, you do enroll for fall and winter when your enrollment appointment time comes next week. So when you sign off on SOLIS, you're going to have your whole year mapped out and all set, all ready for you to hit the ground running in September. Ooh, here's a question about easier courses and harder courses. And this is it's an interesting thing. And I do have some things that I often like to tell students, but I'm just curious how you would approach a question about easier versus harder courses.
Okay, so, I have to start with an anecdote because I'm a film professor, and we often get students who think, I'll take this film course, it will be really easy. And then they complain because it's not easy. And it's not easy in a very different way than they expected, because first of all, we show films that you would never see in theaters. And some of them are quite challenging, and also the topics and what we asked to do. And one of my favorite repeated comment was from fourth year engineering. So engineering students have very hard time taking electives until fourth year. So I would have almost every year a few engineering students in the film first year course. And they would come and tell me, this was one of the most challenging courses I've ever taken. It got me thinking in a different way, right? So I think that easy and hard are maybe not what you think about. So let's unpack easy and hard. There is the question of workload. That on the first week of classes, you will see the syllabus and you will have a sense of the workload. In principle, our courses, a 3-unit course, is expected to be between 8 and 10 hours of work a week. That's the expectation. So whether it's easier or harder, that will depend, right? And it's not evenly necessarily every week it's 8 or 10 hours. There might be more hours later in the term. So the amount of work, the course load, the workload is one aspect that will help you decide if it's easy or hard for you. It may not be hard work, but you're a person who has ADHD and don't want to sit for hours, right? Reading or being in the lab. You want something, when you focus, you're fantastic, but you want to be able to focus for half an hour, 45 minutes, and then go off and play basketball. So that is one question about hard and easy. The second global thing I will say is that there are some courses like math and language courses where right and wrong are very easily discerned. So the grading will be often quite high or low, depending on the mastery of the material. So we will see a kind of a grade distribution where you have a lot of A's and A's pluses, and then a bunch of C's and D's, where other courses, many humanities courses, it will be much harder to attain an A or an A plus. You really need to do everything and more in order to get there. Some social science courses too. So the grade distribution, people doing well will be maybe a B, kind of an average of a B, or that's the highest side of the curve. So that whether the course is hard or easy is also not necessarily will directly translate into your grades, because there are disciplinary conventions that affect the grades. Now, Catherine, you probably have a lot to add to that.
Well, I also have a story, and it's from way back in the day when I was a student at Queen's, and a friend of mine said, can you recommend an easy course? And I did my degree in fine art, And so I said, oh yes, take this, there's a second year Renaissance drawing course. It's so interesting. I got an A in this course. It's really good and really easy. So my friend took this course and he just about failed. And at the end of the course, he said, what were you talking about that was an easy course? This was so hard. And I learned, okay, so things that I might think are easy or maybe that are more engaging for me personally, because it's just an area that I'm interested in, don't automatically line up with what other people are thinking is easy. And I'm sure with the students here, there's going to be folks that think that, you know, an advanced calculus course is really easy, but an English course is really difficult, and vice versa. So yeah, take those with a grain of salt would be
And
my advice.
I want to add that, you know, we're all individual learners. So we all learn differently, and some things are easy and hard, and some things jive with us, and some of us are more text-based, and some of us are more image-based. Some of us need to learn through our hands. Like as soon as we do something in wherever, in the lab or in an art studio, we get it. But if we don't, or moving our body, but if we don't, if it's just intellectual, we don't get it. So reflecting on what kind of a learner you are will help you. Now, that doesn't mean that you should only seek the courses where you know you will excel. I think you want to learn skills. And one of the things that you will learn at university in different courses is not only the topic, like Renaissance drawing, you will also learn different skills and different methods in each course. And so thinking about that also, not just the grade that you got on that assignment, but I actually learned how to handle primary sources in history, or I learned what it means to do an environmental scan of an organization. Those are, the grade may not be the best, or the assignment was really hard, but this is something that later will be on your resume. I have those skills because you have done them at university and you know what it takes. And then you'll usually also know, oh, and then there is the next step of specializing, and the next step.
I love that separating out of the idea of, you know, just it's not all about your grades. Like really at the core, it's what you're learning and what you're gaining. You're here to learn, and you're here to engage academically with at a deeper level with all of the incredible resources and fellow learners that you have around you. And that's it's such a wonderful opportunity. All right, just mindful of time. I'm gonna see if there's another good one. Let's see here. Ooh, scheduling courses. Someone was asking about Duncan MacArthur Hall and West Campus and that sort of walk between them. Getting back and forth. I have a couple things I can add about that, but
Go ahead.
Okay. One thing I will say, and you'll see this does come up again in the other registration info sessions. When you're scheduling your courses, it's totally fine to have some courses on West Campus and some on main campus, as long as they're not directly back-to-back. Back-to-back courses, as long as they're both on main campus or both on West Campus at Duncan MacArthur Hall, are absolutely fine. You'll find that there's actually a 10-minute buffer zone in between when a course ends and when the next one's going to begin, which is plenty of time to get from place to place if they're both on the same campus. There are buses that run also very, very regularly from West Campus to main campus, and that can be a really good way to get back and forth as well. But even with that, I still wouldn't advise putting them back to back for sure. Someone was also asking about online courses or things that are showing up as like TBD with the location. It may be that you love learning online and that's a really good fit for you. And if that's the case, you'll see that there are those options for some courses. We do usually, as a matter of course, recommend that students do on-campus courses in their first year and focus on that. But yeah, anything to say about like online versus in-person learning maybe?
Yeah, I think the one advantage of online is that the courses are asynchronous. So it means that you have to still do things from week to week, but you do it in your own time. So it can allow some flexibility to take one online course and the rest to be in person. But it does require even a greater degree of agency, self-control, time management, right? So I would definitely not recommend more than one course a term at most.
Agreed.
But we will have some online offerings in the summer. So
Yes. Yeah,
yeah,
and that can be
that is a possibility.
Mhm. A little registration detail
Oh.
that somebody may find if they're looking at their enrollment appointment times now and they see there's two enrollment times. One is going to be for next week, and that's your own enrollment time. The one that's showing up for August is when open enrollment begins. So both of those get listed on Solus, but the one that you want to pay attention to start with for sure is the one that's going to come up on either Monday or Tuesday of next week. That's going to be your first chance to get those courses enrolled. Okay.
I also wanted to say that for for science students, there will be some courses where you may be batch enrolled by us. So this is to guarantee that you have the spaces, the students who really need it. So we will be quite tight with a few courses, chemistry and biology particularly. And our way to deal with that is you have a guaranteed spot, but we'll put you in that spot. And we highly discourage you from giving up that spot, even if it conflicts with another course. You have to work your other courses around it, because this year we are especially tight.
Yes, good advice. Yeah, you'll be able to build your other electives and other options around those, but keep those the way they are. Resist the temptation to pull the threads on that sweater. Okay. People talking about, how to navigate changes. Maybe, what if I change my mind about my major or even my faculty? We've
Oh,
just
that's a
got a
good,
minute,
yeah.
but maybe talking about flexibility just for a quick moment.
Yeah. So this is our first year with a very exciting new structure. So we have gone down in the number of credits that you will need in order to have a major, so that it's easier to have two majors or one major and two minors. You can still do what's called specialization, which is what the old major was, which was 60 units. But you can also do the new major, which is 48 units, and then you can do 48, right? And then you can do a couple of them. So we actually have so much flexibility that even if you change your mind in the end of year two, second year, you can still do a major. You can still complete a major if you plan your courses well. So certainly there is room for change. Going across faculties is more complicated. I think that would be a question for a individual academic advisor. It's not there is no, I don't have an answer that is really good for this forum.
Okay, we've reached 6 o'clock. I'll hand it back over to the Student Experience Office team for any closing.
Yes, thank you so much. So, thank you, Dorit, for all of the great information. Before we end here, I would like to remind students to check out Viva Engage for a full calendar of all our SOAR events. And don't forget, we have virtual socials every Saturday in July. And you can schedule one-on-one or small group coffee chats with us, your peer SOAR ambassadors, if you have any questions you want to hear an upper year perspective on. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining, and have a great day.